Welcome to Objections with Stan Willis. Stan Willis is in the room. I'm in the room with Stan Willis. You're listening to someone that's with Stan Willis. Stan, how are you?
I'm the AI version of me.
It's just as good.
Stan couldn't make it today. So
we should have your brother come on the show and see if anyone notices.
Which brother, James or Jason?
First of all, everyone's our brother. We're all from Africa, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I just learned that. ABC News put that out. We're all from Africa. We're all descended from Africans. Soul brother number one.
Okay.
Listen, ABC put it out. Well, I'm saying it was a different thing where dinosaurs were, but I didn't read the whole article, okay? So don't give me all this guff. I do want to talk about...
So did you read the whole title?
No. There was a picture of Africa, and it said,
okay.
we all from here.
I get it.
So,
okay.
And I said, Africa Boombada. I have a question for you about not reading the entire article. The JFK files that they were trying to...
I didn't read them.
Well, you couldn't read most of them. A lot of it was redacted.
It was a lot of redaction.
Do you have a problem with the fact that the Twitter files dump basically shows that the government was in bed with social media companies in persecuting people and getting rid of their accounts and calling them quacks? Or do you have a bigger issue with basically it identifies the CIA killed Kennedy and no one gave a shit?
Well, I'm not sure that you can get to the CIA killed Kennedy from what was dumped. You certainly have...
Even CNN was talking about it.
You certainly have a lot of... I watched a documentary on this. Actually, I watched several documentaries on this because it was intensely interesting.
Did you watch the one about the SEALs?
Yes, I did.
How they have to travel. It's a great documentary.
But the documentary I was talking about was about Lee Harvey Oswald and his
ties to the CIA.
Ties to the CIA.
It's all the same one.
But you can't, even in the conclusion they came to is you can't say that he was a CIA asset. They don't have enough. They don't have proof that he was an asset, but he was at least a person of interest to the CIA. But the theory that I thought was most interesting is that he was hanging out with a group of Cuban dissidents and that it was because they saw Kennedy as being at fault for the failed coup attempt. And Oswald was angry about that, and that's why he killed Kennedy. That's kind of the most intriguing theory, I think, that's come out of all that.
Can I ask you the 3 shots, 8 holes theory? 8 bullet holes come from 3 bullets.
I think that the computer simulations have kind of shown how that happened.
So a bullet goes into Governor Conley's wrist, exit, turns around and hits Kennedy in the throat.
No,
I buy that one.
No, the Kennedy got hit by 2 of the 3, and Conley got hit by 1.
Right, which came over the shoulder of Kennedy into his wrist because he's holding his Stetson like this, and it misses. But it doesn't identify why the one hits the guy who's standing under an underpass. The kill shot is from behind, but he gets shot in the throat. So where Lee Harvey Oswald is in that book
department. He was behind him, yeah.
He's behind him, but Kennedy gets hit in the throat.
Well, it was a through and through.
No. If you watch it again, the first shot that he bends over and grabs his neck is to his throat.
Right.
The kill shot is directly behind.
Hit from the back of the head.
So that's 2 different shots.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, we can debate that all day.
I mean, I've seen most of the evidence that I've seen. It pretty much looks like that all the shots came from behind him, and I mean they've done some experiments and stuff to show.
I love when the CIA does experiments and proves it. I know.
I wouldn't trust. But even the movie guy Roger,
Waters?
not Roger. Stone, Oliver Stone. Even I was thinking Roger Stone, who was another guy.
That's a different movie.
Different movie, yeah. Oliver Stone. even he's not really. He thinks the 3-shot thing is probably accurate, and he's done a lot of research and stuff. The interesting thing to me is, you don't know. I don't think that everyone, the whole government got together and plotted to kill Kennedy. But if you read the communications between Dulles and Hoover, the ones that are public, and Johnson, none of them were surprised.
Right.
You can't say they were planning to kill him, but none of them were surprised that he was killed.
They weren't stopping it.
Right.
It was more, if it happens, cool. Just send me a letter.
Yeah, it was kind of that was the kind of their attitude was they saw him as in the way and antithetical to the things that they wanted to accomplish, which he was. He wanted to do away with the CIA. He wanted to do away with the FBI. That's Dulles and Hoover. He wanted to take away all of their power.
He wanted to stop the war in Vietnam,
which was Johnson. Kennedy was adverse to all of the things that the big government guys that surrounded him wanted. So, of course they wanted him out of the way. I'm not saying that necessarily they conspired to kill him, but as I said, if you read their communications, none of them were upset. They weren't like, oh man, Kennedy's been shot. What are we going to do? They were like, all right, Johnson, you're in. It was very business as usual kind of a thing.
Well, I just find it funny to think of all the things he wanted to get rid of, literally are mentioned in the Twitter files, which would not, if Elon Musk hadn't bought it, we wouldn't know these things because it got released there. And yet people still believe in their government. I think the longer that this goes on, I'm more amazed that someone goes, no, voting really matters. Voting for Democrats matters, or voting for... No, it doesn't.
Voting gives you the sense that you're participating.
Yes. But I think it gives you the same sense as voting for American Idol. I voted for that. Now, I've never seen that show, but when I saw that...
You've never seen American Idol?
No. I don't really watch... I don't really like TV shows.
I think you get popcorn and pizza, and you put pizza toppings on your popcorn, and you sit with your pizza topping popcorn, and you watch American Idol.
I don't like karaoke and all that other shit, but... When somebody, I said, how does somebody win American Idol? And they said, oh, you just text it in on your phone, or you call in who you want.
Isn't it amazing that we can count those votes in like 2 seconds, but we can't?
That's my point.
But we can't count the votes in Arizona for 6 weeks.
Well, here's the other question I have: are they really counting the votes? Because I don't believe in any of these processes. I think who you want to move on. I think everything is rigged.
I don't know. Nate, do you think it's rigged? You're a Hollywood guy.
Nate is very Hollywood, by the way.
Do you think you could only win American Idol by sleeping with Harvey Weinstein? No.
But you did it anyway?
But so let me get this straight. You just slept with Harvey because you liked him? You thought he was hot? What was the deal?
But that's another situation where this rumor goes on that people are winning awards because of Harvey Weinstein digitizing them. And then when it finally comes out, everyone goes, oh my God, I had no idea. And yet all these actresses are saying, yes, this happened to me. This happened to me. I believe that people get pushed to the top.
I think we've talked about this before.
I think we did when he was being sentenced or whatever. But I would like you to give this definition to people that you've explained it to me. When people get to a certain status.
You're talking about the, what's her face? Macy Gray. What Macy Gray said is, it was watching, I forget what show it was I was watching, but it was very telling. She said that when you get to a certain level of money and popularity, that everything is always available to you all the time. And she said that you get to a point where none of it is fun anymore. None of it is exciting anymore because it's always available to you all the time. And so you just constantly have to increase. You have to do more drugs. You have to drink more alcohol. You have to have more sex. You have to experiment more and more and more because it's not fun and exciting to you anymore because it's just available all the time.
And then when you try to get out of that lifestyle, then that machine turns on you.
Right. The whole machine just hates you. And
don't you think that's kind of what you see in news cycles too? Like, I feel like Johnny Depp got to a certain point where it was like, listen, I'm getting used by this chick who's basically a prostitute that he didn't realize was a prostitute. That all comes out in the trial, that she's an actress, but kind of like slept
you're
away.
talking about Amber Heard.
Amber Heard.
Yeah. Apparently she didn't like to make dookie too.
Listen, as a fellow that likes to make dookie, I understand. Just not on somebody else's bed. As punishment.
Oh, come on. You've never crapped on anybody else's bed.
I didn't say that, Stan. What I said is I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought it would all 9 times. But when you see these people go to the top and then it's like all of a sudden they just want, it's like they want a normal life and they get ripped apart on the way back down.
Well, Harrison Ford was Man of the Year, or most best looking Man of the Year, or something like that. And he was in an interview shortly after that, and he was talking about, and they asked him, how it was to be, dang, I wish I had this because it was really good. But he, the tone of what his answer was, it's terrible. You're constantly looking over your shoulder. I'm constantly having to work harder to stay ahead of everybody else. It's awful to be at the top. Was basically his
Which
response.
Is what everybody tells you to strive
like
for, to get to the top of this.
Yeah,
but once you've ascended there, like look at The Rock right now.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, The Rock, the last couple of movies that have come out, I was saying this to
the video
somebody.
of him flipping the guy off as he's waving is hilarious.
Well, when The Rock endorsed Biden and Kamala Harris, because of all the Black Lives Matter, the deaths and all that stuff, that with the cops, he kept making these videos directed towards Trump. Then he finally does a video endorsing Biden and Harris. Now, I'm not saying that's what put him over. But when you look at a map of who actually votes Republican versus Democrat, I mean, it is literally like 80 to 20%. It just depends on
Well,
what
if you're looking at area-wise, it's the
map is almost all red.
It's all red, and you've got blue in New York City and Los Angeles and the coast of California, and then you've got a couple of states up in the northeast, and then a couple of major cities like Atlanta and Chicago.
Right.
And then beyond that, it's pretty much a red map.
But I think during that time, people thought Black Lives Matter was a real thing. Didn't realize it was a fundraising arm for the Democratic Party. Didn't realize it was a fundraising arm for the people running it.
Well, and that woman buying all those houses.
But here's the other thing to look at. Someone had to fund it originally, and they said, you're going to get taken care of. Are they doing anything wrong other than, I mean, that's no different than running the Girl Scouts and like, well, you're going to get $8 million out of it.
As they say, it's a free company.
But that's
free country.
No, this country is a company. It's being run by like 10 people.
It's run like a company.
But when I look at somebody like The Rock and it's not going well for him, right? Like he's now
I
he's
don't think he's suffering.
He's not, but he went from, they would call him franchise Viagra, like anything he was in, he would boost it up. The last 2 or 3 things have kind of faltered. And then Joe Rogan comes out and says, The Rock isn't natural, he's on steroids. Now, what that means, who cares?
Right.
But now people are starting to attack a guy that was kind of like flawless.
Right.
And I think we do that, like we're going to build you up and let you get here, and then all of a sudden we're done with you. And I think they tried to do it with Rogan, and Rogan's answer was, I don't give a shit at all. He was like the one guy that, I don't care, come after me.
That's the there's him. There's a guy from Roby, maybe from Great Britain, that he does the same thing. He's like, they'll try to cancel him. He's like, no, you can't cancel me.
Yeah.
And people are like, why can't you be canceled? And I've heard him say in interviews, because I refuse to be canceled.
Right. Well, that's how that Andrew Tate dude is.
And he says the first rule is don't apologize to them, because once you do that, you lose.
Right.
So he says you don't apologize to them. You just say, I'm right and you're wrong. and you can't cancel me because I don't care.
Do you think, looking back on all those people that were bending the knee, like physically bending the knee,
Yeah.
I just remember being taught never, ever
Bow to a person.
bow to a person.
Right.
And half my family was from England. They wouldn't have bowed for the Queen. Like, never do that. And when I saw these people doing it for political reasons or whatever, you really thought you were going to change something. You just submitted yourself and showed that you're a weak-ass person. Never, ever bow to anybody.
Maybe. I mean, I think it was all just a political stunt, which just shows that you have people who have no... I mean, they're doing things. They have no sense of dignity or...
You have no spine when you do something
Well,
like that.
it's not even fine. You have no moral code, no dignity, no. There's literally nothing. I mean, there's nothing that these people won't do. These mostly politicians that I'm talking about. There's nothing that they won't do. I mean, I think that they're probably out when that movement was going on. You had people who had real feelings and emotions about that and really thought, this is the right thing to do. I'm sure there were people who were doing that, but I don't think for a second that all of the House Democrats and everybody who was doing it, I don't think for a second that there's anything sincere going on there. I think that that's purely a stunt,
Right.
which just goes further to prove that these people will do and say anything to keep what they have.
But that's the part. If you're them, say you're Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell, is there any part of you that's still real?
I don't think so.
Because when I saw that, I just thought you will do anything to get it to this position or to keep it.
The saying that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, I think it's appropriate, and I think that in our political world, the more powerful people become, we've devolved to a place where there's no accountability, and the more powerful the people become, the more corrupt, the more openly corrupt they can be. And I think you see that going on with things like the Hunter Biden laptop thing. I mean, come on. the stuff on that thing. I mean, even the New York Times is saying yes, it's real. Yes, this really happened. There's enough in there to convict him. I mean, you read a book by somebody like Robert Kennedy. Robert Kennedy Jr. wrote a book about Fauci that, in his words, should be used to convict him in his criminal trial. Robert Kennedy is as left as anybody can be. He's not a right-wing shill.
Right.
He's not standing up and down for the conservatives in the world and trying to
and he
any
worked
agenda
with Fauci,
so
he's aware. This is not a rumor. This is I gave grants for these things.
And if you read that book, and you watch the impunity with which Fauci is allowed to continue to come on and say things, it just proves that we've come to a point where we're immune. We don't even care about the corruption anymore as a country.
But at
least 40 years ago we had to pretend like we cared.
Right.
The politicians had to pretend like they weren't corrupt. At this point, Fauci doesn't even have to. He doesn't even pretend like he's not corrupt.
But that's what I'm saying is that when all the truth comes out, and then you look at the trending topics, and it is the Marvel Universe or Carlos Correa, and I'm thinking,
you're sitting there going, "What if the truth came out and nobody cared?"
It is very 1984. Like, it doesn't. Nobody cares about. They're literally going to let you know the truth, and you're going to make an excuse because it doesn't fit the narrative that you feel.
There's a Vonnegut short story called Herbert. See, I'm not going to be able to figure it out. But anyway, the basis of the story is that there's a group of intellectual elites who are all behind the scenes, and they kind of run things, and then there's the society. The society doesn't recognize that there is a they when they talk about they say, and so these people do things like they handicap. So the point in the society is to be average. So anyone who's not average, they get rid of them. So the main character, what happens is he keeps getting A's on tests, and so they bring him in. They bring him in and they say, look, you can either have the lobotomy so that you'll be average like everybody else, or you can come join us, these elites, and you can have everything. I mean, they have everything they want, and all they just control the society, right? And so his whole thing is, well, if everybody knew about this stuff, they would change. And so he takes a great risk, and he exposes and he plays this classical music, and he tells everybody about the they, right? And they take him off air and put their programming back on, and the whole society immediately goes back to the programming. Like nobody cared.
That's like the end of Truman Show.
The Truman Show is the same kind of a deal.
But I'm just saying, for people that haven't read that story,
it's called. I cannot remember. I'm going to have to look that up. But it's a Vonnegut short.
But I feel like these things are, they're almost like parable. You know what I mean? It's like I'm going to show you what we're leading to, right, and what your reaction's going to be. Right. Because the Truman Show, the ending of that is always the best example. Is let's see what else is on. Yeah. Because that's over. We're living through a time where we've been conditioned through propaganda that it doesn't really matter. Yeah. So if it offends you or it makes you sad, turn it off.
Right.
So that's why you won't have any revolutions, is because people got Xboxes, they got big screen TVs, they're eating pizza. If you condition them to everything is okay, just be average. We live in the most average time or below average time in the history of this country.
Right.
So no one's going to fight back. You can have organized BLM and all this other bullshit that are paying people to stir them up. Right. But I can only be stirred up for so long because, oh, man, I'm not going to stand out there for 8 hours. I want to be home in the air conditioning, right? Revolutions are one thing. That causes change. Temporarily sparking the idiots off their couch never lasts.
Right, right.
I think we should end on that because some idiot's listening to this show right now on their couch going, he's not talking about me. I am talking about you. You've been listening to Objections with Stan Willis. We'll see you next week.